Hi, I'm Jalen Rose, and welcome to the Renaissance Man podcast, proudly presented by the New York Post, a show where we cover trends in fashion, entertainment, current events, and everything in between. My next guest got now and next. He's an Emmy-nominated writer, comedian, podcast host, NAACP award winner, who currently writes for The Daily Show and is a former writer and performer for The Tonight Show. His new comedy special is called Up Here Killing Myself, and it transforms an hour of therapy into an exploration of Black mental health and self-discovery. It's streaming right now on Peacock, so make sure y'all check it out. It is my honor to welcome the hilarious Josh Johnson to the Renaissance Man podcast. Welcome.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I appreciate the love and thank you for taking the time. I'm a huge fan of your work, so I'm excited to have you on the show. I know that you grew up in a small town in Louisiana. So tell me about your childhood, what it was like there, and at what point did you know that comedy was something that you knew that you wanted to pursue as a career?
Uh, I guess it was when I was little. I was doing a lot of just watching comedy and everything. I didn't really know it could be a job until I got older. Because even like when you're little in your head, you're like any adult with a job is like especially made for that job. So like when you're a little kid, you think of teachers as like, oh, these are people. That's just the person who knew all the math, so she teaches math. And like if you saw a pilot, you were like, oh, that's a special guy that knows how to fly. You forget that every person is just regular, and you even forget it as you get older. And so I didn't realize it could be a job until I moved to Chicago to start doing it. And even then I was working at a grocery store and doing shows at night, so it still didn't occur to me that it could be a career. And once things started taking off, though, also I think I took it seriously from the beginning. It really helped make it into a career. But it's always been something that I wanted to do. I always enjoyed making people laugh. I always enjoyed like sharing my thoughts with people and everything.
So take us behind the scenes about your childhood in Louisiana and your transition and how you got to Chicago.
Yeah, so I grew up in Alexandria, and I went to college in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's when I got the idea to go to Chicago. There were some in my class that were going to move to Chicago, and so I ended up moving there a little while after them and staying on some friends' couches for quite a while, and then yeah, when I started, I was just open micing. Like there wasn't much going on for me. I wasn't like, hello Chicago, I'm here. It was more just like me enjoying going up, learning both how to talk to people and learning any sort of craft or any joke writing was coming about from so much watching people and getting their advice and talking to people who were sort of where I wanted to be and everything. And then, ended up rising up through the sort of like ranks in Chicago and getting past at some of the clubs and stuff. And then I just sort of hit I hit a ceiling there, I guess you could say, where if you're already doing the spots, like you're at most of the clubs, if not all the clubs, then that's an indication right there that that's all the money you're going to make, is the spot pay that you can get. And I'd start going on the road a little bit, but not necessarily headlining much, and not as frequently as I would have liked. And so then I made the move to New York, and that's where things really took off.
So you earned your spot so very young in life. I believe you're 30. You already talked about living in Louisiana, living in Chicago, living in New York. But people sometimes underestimate the sacrifices and the discipline that you've had as it relates to working at grocery stores, sleeping on your friends' couches, So talk about that endurance and what were those times and years like for you?
I mean, when you don't, if you're not used to much, you don't actually know the difference. So it's like, it's like if you like when someone's like broke, they're not like, oh, I'm out here grinding. They're just like, no, this is the
Right.
most comfortable couch I've been on. This is pretty good. It's like, it's not until you look back that you're like, oh, I was in a bad situation. That was horrible. And so for me, it wasn't necessarily like an attitude of like, oh, I'm gonna grind it out and I'm gonna I definitely want the recognition of being good, but there wasn't this mindset of like oh yeah, I'm just paying my dues and sometimes you gotta sleep on a few couches. It's like it it was just that what I wanted to do was close enough in relation to the things that I had to do to be in proximity. So it's like, I guess I'm trying to make this make sense. The best way I can describe it is that, yeah, I think if someone laid it all out for a person of like, okay, if you want to get this stuff, you'll have to, yeah, sleep on some couches, take some bus routes that don't make any sense at all, where you're just on a bus for a full day to get to a show, just to save the money it'll take to make money at the show. Uh, I think that, yeah, if you tallied it all up for someone, they might be hesitant. But for me, I think I was also so optimistic at the time that I was like, well, yeah, I'm sleeping on a couch. Yeah, I'm getting up at like 5 a.m. to go to work, but like I got to do a show last night, and that's crazy because there aren't shows where I'm from. There's maybe you begging the DJ at karaoke to let you do 5 minutes, which no one will understand, by the way, because when people go for karaoke, no one's going to see comedy. So then
Right.
it's like it just, you be asking to bomb for 5 minutes. You be asking for everyone to have a worse time at this karaoke bar. And so my thing of just being able to do a show was so mind blowing. I was like, I'm here and I'm having fun and I'm meeting people. I'm meeting really funny people, incredible comics and everything, and I'm getting to do all of it for free. So yeah, maybe the cost of doing it is sleeping on some couches, or like sleeping on the floor if I have to, or
Mhm.
like paying this $19 bus ticket that's $19 because it's 19 hours. Like
Hey.
there's things like that happen, but I think as long as you know it's in pursuit of something that you love, it's a small price to pay. It's like with a relationship. If somebody came to you and they were like, "You're going to meet the love of your life. They're going to be great. You're gonna wake up every day thankful that you met them," but they will like argue with you outside of a Regal cinema at some point, and you're just gonna have to take
Right.
that one on the chin. And it's like, yeah, some people will be like, "Oh, I'm not putting up with that," and then some people will be like, "Well, love of my life seems like a small price to pay for a couple of arguments in the back of some Ubers."
Exactly. So who were some of the entertainers and or TV shows that influenced your humor?
Um, I watched a lot of Bill Burr growing up, and I think that I definitely, like, even though I only watched a few of his specials, Christopher Titus, I enjoyed because his special just happened to be one of the first that I watched top to bottom over and over. And I was like blown away by it because he was being really vulnerable and he was going really dark, but then he always ended up making it funny. And yeah, I think that, obviously I had to sneak to watch it because my mom didn't want me watching it. But like Richard Pryor, especially when I was younger, and a lot of Chris Rock as well.
And also you mentioned bombing because turbulence is a part of life. And you just even acknowledged that when you're in a relationship, there's going to be arguments. As a comedian, there's going to be times when you bomb because I feel like that's the hardest job possible. You're in a room full of people that you don't know and you're charged with making them laugh. And so tell me about a time where you were on stage or something that you wrote and it bombed, but it also gave you the inspiration to learn from it and to be better at your craft.
I mean, is a bit that's it's a bit loaded because it's like when you're bombing, you're not really thinking about improving. Like when you're in the middle of bombing, you're not like, man, how am I gonna use this to turn everything around? You're more just like, oh man, this is horrible. This is really bad. They hate me, you know. So I remember way back in the day, I did this comedy festival, and I don't mind getting bumped. I'm not that stressed about getting bumped, by other comedians or people who have to go somewhere or whatever. But I had seen two different lists: the list that the host had and the list that the stage manager had that said that I was going first. And so I was like ready, and I thought the host was about to bring me up, and then out of nowhere, they say this other name, and then that person went up and they bombed horribly. They bombed so bad that half the audience left, and they ran the light by like 20 minutes, right?
Oh, wow.
And it was like particularly horrible. And then I go up and doing what I think any comic would do. I like roasted them a little bit for being so bad. Like I've never seen half the people walk out before ever.
Crazy.
I haven't seen that since, right?
Wow.
They were so bad. And so then I was just like, and I wasn't even that mean. I just lightly was like, okay, wow, that's kind of crazy. I've never seen half the room walk before. And I was just like, I think I said two things about him. Like not even going after this guy, but it turns out everyone that stayed were his friends. And so then I bombed, but it's like I didn't even deserve to. They just liked him as a person, and then everyone else hated his comedy, so they left. And then they hated me for mentioning how much everyone hated his comedy. So it didn't really give me any courage. There was no silver lining. That was just a horrible night. But you move on.
Absolutely. And you move on, you did, because your career ended up taking you to New York, where you live now. So I have to ask, of course, you're going to represent Louisiana to the fullest. That's where you were born. But working, playing, and spending a lot of time in New York, I have to ask you, do you consider yourself a New Yorker? And what do you think it takes to actually call yourself one?
I think it just depends on how many horrific things you've seen. Like if you've seen a bunch of bad stuff, you're like, yeah, you're one of us. Like obviously there's time that needs to be taken into account. Some people want to be here like 2 months and talk about how they're a New Yorker, and nobody really believes that. But I think if you've seen, I'm trying to think of like a real criteria, because okay. I feel like if you've seen at least one attack, and you've seen at least one truly horrific thing that's like personal to you, that's all you really need. I think that there are some people who visit and come away with the experience of being a New Yorker more than people who have lived here for a while. I had a friend visit, and this is how you know somebody's rich. I had a friend visit New York, and they told me they couldn't believe how clean New York was. And I was like, oh, you must have not gone anywhere where there were regular people. You must have only been flying from place to place, because if you even walked the pavement, you wouldn't say that's it was so insane. But they're also very rich. And so I can see how they only saw the best of what New York has to offer. But clean, I was like, wow.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. Because you could be at the finest establishments and be walking down the street and the trash be taller than you.
Yeah. So that for me was the first time I was like, oh, geez. Okay. Yeah, we're living different lives.
Absolutely. So I have to ask, and congratulations on your new Peacock Special. It's
Oh,
loosely
thanks.
based around real life situations you share with your therapist. Where did this idea of this special come from? And what does your actual therapist think of all of this?
I have not asked my therapist what they think of it. It just came out, so I have not asked. But I think that mostly it came about from, you know, the way that we did the interstitials is the perfect example. Yeah, I reached out to the director, Jacob Menacci, a long time ago to talk to him about the concept of it and how best we should do it. And that's why you see the beginning, either a question being asked or me talking about an idea in therapy, and then it ends up on stage because it's the best representation of how things went. You know, when I was in therapy, I would talk about these things and didn't know how I felt about them. And then by the time you see them on stage, not only do I know how I feel, I'm sort of offering it up to everyone as something to laugh about, you know? So that's kind of where it came from, was this moment in therapy where my therapist was like, you know, you don't have to be funny here, right? Like, it was like, because I was kind of like padding everything that I was saying with like some sort of joke or just trying to keep it light and stuff. And that crossover to me, because I think I needed both things to get where I am. So that sort of crossover felt like a really interesting way to look at it.
How important is it and has it been for you to invoke your personal life into your public persona? Because as you know, being a public figure, it's always a fine line to how much we want to allow people in, whether it's our things that we love or things that bring us pain. So for you, where do you draw that line?
Um, yeah, maybe I haven't drawn it yet. I don't know. That's a good question. I suppose that there's definitely some stuff I haven't talked about, and I guess it doesn't mean I won't ever talk about it, but I just sort of take it project by project of how involved I want to be, you know? Like I do my best, especially when it comes to social, to be as like authentic as possible and share what I feel like sharing, and not really, I don't know, you don't really like see me get into anything online with people, because I feel like even that to a certain degree is less authentic than people think it is. Like, I think a lot of times when people are going at it on social, people are like, oh, they're really mad at each other. They're furious. Oh, it's on site. And it's like, look, maybe.
Right.
But more often than not, those people patch things up behind closed doors, and then people want to act confused when they're friends again. So it's like,
Mhm.
I think that you have to take everything that you see in media with a grain of salt, because since you don't always control what gets out there, you can't always control how people perceive it. So then, even if you're trying to be authentic, it's like, well, something could still get taken out of context, or something could still look bad in a way that you can't control. So I haven't really drawn any lines, I suppose. I think I just share what I feel like sharing.
Do you have any favorite jokes that you can recall or skits that you wrote for the Tonight Show and or ones that you've done with the Daily Show?
Um, Let me see. It's very hard. It's really hard. Hmm. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I suppose that for Daily Show, you know, I worked on this segment that we used to do under the old banner that was CP time, and we would do them with Roy Wood Jr. And I wrote a bunch of those, and so those are always really fun. I always really enjoyed watching Roy riff as well as writing for the piece. So that collection of stuff is so funny, and I had such a great time making it. Um, so I think that would be my bet. Yeah, that's my best answer for the moment. But there's been so many. That's why it's so hard to choose.
I've always watched the late night comedy space and felt like Black people were getting omitted in a lot of ways. I felt since Arsenio Hall, obviously Trevor Noah, but it's been few and far between of us in that space on the stage. I was always, it was always head scratching to me. Why? And I'm not going to take the negative spin, but I'll ask you if there is someone that you feel like, besides yourself or even yourself, that you would like to see have a late night TV show, who would that be and why?
Um, yeah. I mean that's also difficult because it's like, how am I not going to give myself a job?
There you go.
But
You got, hey man, these are hit shows that you penning, you ghostwriting. Like you're
yeah,
dope at what you do and you young, you got next. Why not
yeah,
you?
yeah. I mean, I think that some of it, to a certain degree, is the target audience. So I think that there have been moments where um, things have been made specifically for us, and so I think it's important in those moments for us to show up so that we get to really demonstrate our buying and viewing power, so that way more gets targeted towards us. But yeah, I think that late night's also evolving. So, being at whoever is at the forefront of that is going to be ahead by a mile of the curve of what people expect from late night and what people seek from it. I think that some people, especially the forward thinking people, see the shift coming, and so they've already started to make preparations. So I think that I'd love to, you know, do something in that space.
What about music? What you listening to get ready for shows, when you riding in the car, when you on the train, when you moving and shaking? Like, what are you
Yeah.
listening to?
Um, I listen to a decent amount of like J. Cole and stuff. I really enjoy J. Cole. I listen to a lot of Jesse Reyes as well. And then I think that, ever since Kendrick dropped the album, I've been listening to a lot more Kendrick. But yeah, I'm going in and out. I'm like trying to discover things, but I also can't get away from like old favorites and stuff. So I have a lot of stuff on repeat consistently.
And before I let you get out of here, Josh Johnson up here killing myself on Peacock right now. I have some rapid fire segment called Gone in 60 Seconds. You ready to do this?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. So I know you feel some type of way about barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best barbecue spot in your opinion and why?
The best barbecue spot that I've been to. Are we talking in New York?
Wherever.
Oh,
Where
wherever.
us to, yeah.
Okay, wherever. I think for wherever, I'd have to go ZZQ. I believe it's in Richmond, Virginia, and it's just incredible. Like every cut of meat is good. Every side is fantastic. The desserts are really good. They did this passion fruit cheesecake while I was there that I've just never had anything like it. And then they have like a Frito pie. They have great cornbread. They do all of it really, really well. Like incredible.
Ooh, I know you love your fans from coast to coast and worldwide. However, what city or town has been your favorite to perform in while on tour?
I mean, I'm biased because it's where I came up, but Chicago's always going to probably be my favorite just because I know the spots to hit after the show. I know more people there. I know the sensibilities better. Like that one's just it's going to be hard to top that one, because even in New York, you're getting tons of tourists at every show. You're getting um, people from, which is great, but you're getting so many people from different walks of life that it's not always a bunch of comedy fans. Sometimes it's just people who wanted to try out a comedy show and stuff. So that can make it a bit difficult in a way that when you're in Chicago, everybody's there to laugh.
Who is someone that is giving you recognition that you were like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm on my path to try to chase my goals.
I remember one time I did a show and Bob Odenkirk was there, and he was like, "That was really, really great." And he was just so complimentary, and it was so genuine that it took me aback. Yeah, I still think about it sometimes because it was very cool to know, like, okay, I'm on the right track, doing the right things and everything.
If you could give young Josh, and you're still very young, a piece of advice, what would it be?
Um, yeah, don't do that show in New Orleans. You know, the one I told you about before, where I bombed. Jeez, that was horrible. That was so bad.
And lastly, but certainly not least, and again, up here killing myself on Peacock right now. Make sure y'all go support and check that out. What are you most excited about audiences to take away from your new special?
Just I haven't released a special. It's been what, like, I think a year and a half at least, and so for people to um take in the new jokes that I was working on and enjoy them, but also to sort of walk away with the feeling that they're not alone, and hopefully they'll get, you know, entertained, but they'll also feel a bit better about themselves and life and everything. Those are the main things.
Dope, dope. The hilarious Josh Johnson again, streaming now on Peacock. Up here killing myself. Thank you for taking the time, my brother. Continue success.
Thank you. Appreciate you.